The way that our joins are going to be put together is on the from line. Now, what I have up here at the top is a select statement that's going to be joining together two tables that I very imaginatively named Table 1 and Table 2. The way that we indicate our join is by utilizing the join syntax. And this could be inner join, this could be outer join, this could be left join. There's a lot of options that could come into play there. But the long and short of it is that after we say join, over on the right-hand side, you'll notice that we're going to specify the seam. So where you see the T1 and the T2, that's where we're specifying our seam. So for example, if we were going to be joining that customers and that orders tables together based on the customer ID, then it's going to be our customer ID equaling our customer ID. You'll also notice inside of here that I've aliased my tables. And I do this the exact same way that I alias columns. Again, keyword as, and then I simply provide an alias name. When aliasing tables, convention is to use either the first initial, or if the tables are built separated by semicolons, or they're built by utilizing a capital letter for each word, by just using each capital letter that you see. In most programming languages, doing abbreviations is not really a great way to go about doing things. In SQL, it's not that big of a deal because I'm going to see the definition very clearly on my screen. So it makes it very easy to figure out what's going to be what. It is possible to do your joins on the where line, which is what you see down at the very bottom. So you'll notice that we've got, again, our select, our from, our aliases, and then we're doing the on statement, but only this time we're doing it as a where line. And there are certain database providers that will only support joins that way. SQL supports doing it on the from line, doing it with the on keyword, doing it by utilizing what's frequently known as an ANSI standard join, ANSI being the standards body that standardizes SQL. That's the preferred way to do things inside of SQL Server. SQL does support doing it on the where line, but that is not the preferred way to do things. So some coding best practices. Number one, just as we saw before, always alias your table names. Number two is to always use two-part naming for your columns. And this is partly because sometimes it's going to be required, because you will be joining tables together that will frequently have the exact same column names. Again, with our customers on our orders, both of them had the customer ID. Well, if they both have the exact same column name, SQL needs to figure out which table it is that we're referring to. So in that case, I'll have to use, in this case, table alias, dot, and then the name of the column. But I also like to do this for columns that aren't duplicated in both tables. And the reason for that is readability. So that way when I go look at my query, I'm going to be able to see immediately, oh, that's the table that this is coming from. The next thing is to place each join on a separate line. So if you're going to be doing multiple join statements, or even just one like I've got shown on the slide here, it makes it a lot more readable if I'm marking my joins on separate lines. And then, if possible, try and have your on statement on the same line as the inner join, again, because it's going to make it more readable. Finally, last but not least, is to place your tables in logical order. It really doesn't matter the order in which you list your tables. However, I like to show a nice progression so that if I'm going from table 1, joining to table 2, joining to table 3, joining to table 4, let's put it in that order so that way it becomes that much more readable. When you're doing joins, the readability of your queries becomes of the utmost importance because just inherently doing a join kicks up the complexity of your query. Whenever things get more complex, your focus should turn to not only how am I going to make this query come together, but also how am I going to make this query as readable as possible, so that way when I or somebody else has to come along and read it, it's that much easier for them as well. I want to demo one last little thing about table aliases before I go forward into the rest of my demos. And that is the fact that the moment that you alias a table, you can only then refer to it by that alias. So if I said, let's say select, and then I said production product name, and then I said from production product, what you're going to notice is, sure enough, that query executes. But if I alias my table by simply saying, for example, either as P, or by the way, you can leave off the as if you so desire, you'll notice that the Management Studio immediately gives me what are known as red squigglies. Yes, that is in fact the technical term. I love that. And the reason for that is because for the purposes of this query, production product will from here on forward be known as P. So if I try to call it out by saying production not product, SQL doesn't know what that is right now. We've given it an alias. So if I alias a table, I'm now required to always use that alias name. When I change that to be P, now you're going to notice that everything is going to work again.